for example, we done one project. It was actually a repair and maintenance contractor. We were actually doing a retrofit on a series of tenement buildings down in Greenock. And they were actually, because it was a stone-built building, there was lots of repairs to be done to the externals. And because it was a highly intricate architectural building, to actually capture that data is quite labour intensive. So we managed to talk them into using laser scanning. We actually got in contact with Leica. Leica came on board as a bit of collaboration with the project, and they gave us an in-kind donation to actually the use of the laser scanner for a day, which was great, which allowed the contractor to actually just have a bit of play about with the machine. And these machines now are almost getting to a stage where it's almost, if you can use a mobile phone, you can use a laser scanner. That's it in a simplified terms. But the problem is, as a contractor, you have to understand what you want to gain from using some sort of digital tech, whether that be a laser scanner, whether that be a UAV, whether that be various other types, whether you want to use a digital platform, whether you want to use a mobile, whether you want to use a tablet. You know, we're starting to move into these areas now. And for us, laser scanning, my background is that originally I started off many years ago as a stonemason. So I know the intricacies of actually having to take, you know, templates, actually extract dimensions. It's a highly expert level in knowledge needed. But the problem is that not one person takes the same reading, because then it's a human issue. Whereas we're using digital tech now, so we can actually almost increase the accuracy. What we did was we done a comparison on one of the projects where we actually asked one of the contractors so that we could actually show a cost-benefit analysis against what their existing work processes were. We done a comparative analysis between what they do existing and against what they would do harnessing the laser scanner. And, you know, we made a few assumptions, but bottom line is that the time and the quality was, we saved over 30% in time. And that was between collation of data, that was between going back and forward the office, because invariably, if you've been involved in surveying for a number of years, you go out to a site, you'll have your pen and piece of paper, and invariably you think that you've captured everything, and then when you get back to the office, you find out, oh, wait a minute here, I'll need to go back and visit that site. Whereas using a laser scanner, we can actually capture every bit of data that we require on the external or in an internal, and then we can do the sort of planning or the logistics or the project management when we come back to the office. But again, I'm missing a big chunk out between, because we can capture the data, but the big chunk of work is actually processing of the data.
So that's really good, Scott. I mean, that shows how it can, you know, help the finished quality, how it can help save time. Not just on, I'm sure it's not just on the actual usage of the equipment, and but on the whole the project life cycle. And also, and that was another interesting point that you made about the funding and the support that that company got from Leica on it. You know, I don't think SMEs, realise what actually is available, and it's not just like, here's a scanner, go and get on with it. There is a lot of support, and there is, you know, innovation funding, and you know, as you said, Leica.
What you tend to find is a lot of these guys that are, you know, the Leica, Faro, various organisations that are actually doing this, because we're on a cusp that we're actually on a movement towards a digital change, and these guys know that to actually, you know, that, yeah, the policy governments are actually trying to create a top-down approach, but the problem within the industry, and my belief is that it needs to have a top-down, bottom-up approach. We need to actually tackle the industry from both directions, and the only way that we can do that is by harnessing the expertise and the knowledge of the manufacturers, the software providers, so that what it is it's not that one person will be able to do the whole gambit of work. it's a collaborative process.
When you want to find out more about machine control, where do you start? Do we need to buy a dozer? What equipment do we need? Do we need a design team? How much will it cost? I would always encourage just sitting down with the supplier or an expert to see how it will best work for you. A great example that I've just had with one of our customers is a contractor I work very closely with in tough construction. They've been using machine control and dozers for years now. And about a month ago, Charlie, who heads up their digital construction team, basically came to us and said, I want to use machine control in my excavators to dig foundations. These are house plot foundations. I know it can be done, but where do I get started with it? And he was basically looking to us for a bit of support. So together we came up with a plan that involved what system will best suit the job, how to manage the data in terms of what's actually the most efficient way to draw the model, to actually draw the foundations so that it is a seamless flow from office to field. And also at the pinnacle, making sure it is as simple as possible for the excavator driver to use, as they're probably new to the technology. So we did some training for the driver and the engineer involved. And 1 month on, his driver can get in his excavator in the morning. He drives to a plot that doesn't exist yet on the ground and digs the foundation to level. He can create his own offsets, create different layers that need to be put in. And it's just him and his banksman out there working away. Although the driver has my phone number and I'm only a phone call away, he doesn't have to call because they went about it the right way. Firstly, they obviously knew who were the people they could ask, and basically they asked. Training-wise, we focus our training, machine control training courses on what the engineer or driver will actually be faced with on site. And it can be a beginner or a more advanced driving course, so a driver doesn't have to do all the learning on the job. And I know this is a type of training that you, Saffron, and Gail preach with your setting out for construction courses too. It's focusing on the end users.
And he was skeptical, and he was afraid that machine control would take away some of his skill. And, you know, what would be stopping him being replaced by somebody with half the experience and doing the same job? You know, it was just a scary prospect. So we went ahead and we fitted out this D7 with 3D machine control. I spent time on site showing Murray how to kind of what sort of views he could have on the screen. And initially, when we put the model on, you know, it was a standard DTM with all the triangulation and everything else. And Murray looked a little bit taken aback, and he just said, "Make it as simple as possible, please." So yeah, we stripped out the triangulation, and essentially he was left with 2 rectangles, one at one grade, one at another. And yeah, he set about just marking the perimeter with the dozer. Once he marked the perimeter, he could then see what level he was at, see what level the grade needed to be. And 3 days, I would say, he was completely converted. That's how long it took for him to gain a bit of confidence in it. And on day 4, the cut and fill was completed, and the next task was to install the drainage and install some ground source heat pipes. So Murray called me up, and he just said, "Is there any chance of putting the line work for the ground source heat pumps on the dozer?" So I kind of laughed and said, "Well, it's already there. I just stripped it all back, so your model was very simple." Quick visit back to site, turned the line work on for the pipes, and he was then using a D7E to go around and mark out the site for the excavators to follow. The excavators didn't have machine control on, so he was using a D7E to essentially stake out the site. And this is an operator in his 60s, not long due for retirement, that didn't really want machine control because he was, as I say, a little bit scared. But yeah, 1 week completely converted. And when we asked him what he liked most about it, his answer was trimming up or getting near to grade can be it can be very tiring. I mean, before we put machine control on this dozer, they were using a laser catcher. So they had a dual grade laser spinning. Murray would have to operate the blade himself, and when you're trimming up and concentrating on a large site, it can get very tiring. So he loved the fact that once he got close to grade, he could just hit the auto button and track. So you still need experience. You still need to know what you're doing with windrows and things like that. You still need to know how to read the terrain and the earth, but it's there to help. And that's what he agreed at the end. It's not here to take your job. It's here to help. And he's the perfect shining example